Hello and welcome back to Single Race Mode, the series that isn't a series at all. I just go racing in a game of my choosing, and today a classic Colin McRae Rally for the original PlayStation. I've been playing this offline, just trying to complete an intermediate championship so I can unlock the expert one and try and complete that, because surprise surprise, I never did either when I was younger. But I thought I would record this particular rally because I'd never gotten to Rally Indonesia before, so I thought it would be an interesting one to show. And I also actually recorded this at the end of last year. I've had this footage sat around for ages, so I now can't fully remember what happened. So let's rediscover it all together. A look at the standings before heading into Rally Indonesia though, as you can see, leading the championship from who else? Colin McRae. Corsica was a weak spot for me, so I need to try and refine some form. If I can finish ahead of McRae, I might seal the championship around early. And as we arrive at the beginning of the rally, the standard look through the stages and make setup changes, and of course as we progress through the rally, also where we repair damage as well, with our time limit of 60 minutes. So having a look at the layout of the stages, how twisty is it, how many straight sections, what surfaces are we on, we'll adjust the setup accordingly. Decide to adjust the acceleration, and I usually switch the brakes to help with the oversteer, help rotating the car under braking. That'll do for now. Off we go. Interestingly enough, Rally Indonesia was the only rally in this game that didn't actually happen in the 1998 World Rally Championship. It was due to, but cancelled due to civil unrest, so this is a rally that never actually took place in the 1998 WRC season. As you can see, rocking the Ford Escort, and off we go. Some of the topics we're going to cover in this video, I'm going to do a retrospective review of Colin McRae Rally. This is my first time revisiting it as an adult after owning a copy when I was younger when the game came out, so good to look back over it and see how it holds up. This video coming after the recent news that EA was reducing roles at Codemasters, their Southam site, where so many rally games, including this one, have been produced over the years, including as well obviously the recent EA WRC game. So nice to have a little look back at not their first rally game, but certainly one of their most influential. Also going to be talking about my relationship with rallying and rally games. This is the first time rallying has appeared on the channel in any form, so we'll have a little look into that. Also be looking at the differences between the different releases of this game as well, which there are some. And I'll be talking about some other stuff too, because if you haven't worked it out, this is very much unscripted, kind of just a bit of an informal chat while we go racing, or in this case, rallying. So let's get into it. As you can see, the first three splits haven't gone the best, down in 6th, and hopefully we can turn things around. This is the first time that rallying is actually featured on the channel in any form. I was always more of a fan of circuit racing growing up, but I've always kept an eye on rallying and followed it. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think in the UK it was on Channel 4, and sometimes part of the sports magazine show Transworld Sport, although I don't know if I'm misremembering that. Maybe someone with a better memory can correct me on that one. But I've always followed rallying. Obviously, upon getting Colin McRae Rally, I was very aware of who that was, and Richard Burns and Carlos Sainz. So yeah, a decent semi-working knowledge of rallying. And I gotta say, I do massively respect rally drivers for their, well, some may call it stupidity, but it's the sheer bravery. I don't know who the quote's attributed to, but there's a saying, circuit racing drivers will take one corner 100 times, whereas rally drivers will take 100 corners once, and they've got to give it everything that one time in order to win the rally. So yeah, as a skill, it's incredible, and yeah, I am not the sort of person that I would be good at rallying. Everyone can see how I do on my attempts at circuit racing when I've had time to practice. So yeah, firing through treacherous roads with nothing but some pace notes, it's not my strong point. Even though I've been good at this game, as you can see, I'm having a bit of a struggle on this particular stage, up to 5th now, final split. getting caught on the rougher sand on the beach quite a few times. As you can see, I'm a little bit tentative. I'm not really attacking the corners very well. We head to the finish now, and we stay 5th, behind our teammate Juha Kankkunen. But McRae is not leading the rally, so that's not too bad. Backlund leading in the Mitsubishi. So yeah, as we head towards stage 2, like I say, sort of passive fan of rallying throughout the years, and as a result I've played a fair few rallying games. So many of the Colin McRae rally games, a few of the dirt games, and the WRC games throughout the PS2 and PS3/Xbox 360 era. But Colin McRae Rally was the first one, was the very first rally game I played, and what a place to start. One of the all-time great rallying games. And coming back to this to play through, well, that's an awful start. Jeez, it didn't even look that bad. How am I 12? Anyway, doesn't matter. Yeah, so when coming back to this game, I obviously remember really enjoying it as a kid, and there's always that worry, what if you come back to it and it's not quite as good as it was? But honestly, I still feel like it holds up. Obviously, you give it a little bit of grace in terms of, you know, the hardware it was made on, and oh, I just hit that person's house. Oh, I hope. Oh, that was quite. I mean, I hope the glass smashing was my car. Anyway, forget it. But what a recovery, up to second, splitting the Subarus. But yeah, honestly, all things considered, I think this game holds up incredibly well. One of the first things I thought when I started the championship back in New Zealand was, I wonder how much these stages are just going to kind of feel like the same sort of meandering, randomly generated, sort of just twisty bit of road with a different skin placed over it as we move through the championship. And actually, when I was paying attention to up to first, yes, you. I'm sorry, no, I was a bit aggressive. Good work, up to first. Yeah, one of the first things I noticed when kind of keeping an eye out is actually the stages are so well designed. First of all, the difference between stages in a single rally. It could have been very easy for the team at Codemasters to just pick a skin for each country and then just throw together some, you know, twisty generic sections of road and call it a day. But no, there's variety between each of the single stages, but still a cohesiveness where it feels like, okay, all of these stages clearly feel like they're part of the same country in the same rally, but there's enough variety in them that it doesn't feel like you're just doing the same stage, you know, multiple times in a row. Take the first 2 stages of this rally, for example. Still clearly part of Indonesia, but 2 completely different challenges, and really well designed, where it just feels organic, it doesn't stick out at all. It's the sort of thing where it's designed so well, you don't notice it, because you're not supposed to notice it, it's just supposed to be part of the world. And that is a sign of good world design and good game design. So yeah, between stages, it absolutely nails it, because it feels like a complete rally, but the rally is varied enough and interesting enough from a challenge perspective and a visual perspective that you're just interested and engaged the whole way through. So big tick on that. And a big tick for us as we go 2 seconds clear at the top of the rally after that very good stage 2 for us, leading McRae. Could we seal the championship with a rally win? Anyway, before we go into stages 3 and 4, chance to adjust setup and repair damage. Considering we clouted an entire house, I think we've been let off quite lightly there with the amount of damage we had. It's a minor criticism. Sometimes the damage doesn't feel as heavy as it should. Like, I feel like I should have needed more than just 7 minutes to repair my ills from that stage 3. Anyway, I make the decision to go on to wet grooves based on the forecast and max acceleration based on the layouts of the next stage. Will that be the right decision? Stage 3 next, Prapat. And it will be our first taste of stormy weather in the evening. And as you can see, a very twisty layout for this one, hence the acceleration decision. Nicky Griss now on the pace notes to count us in.
5, 4, 3, 2,
So, we've covered what it's like in terms of the difference between stages in an individual rally. How about between rallies? Well, they nail that as well, because, like I said, when I started the season, back in New Zealand, I thought to myself, well, hang on, am I just going to feel like you've got some generic stage routes, and then they've just whacked the appropriate environment skin over the top, and it will just feel all very interchangeable? But it doesn't. Such is, I feel like, the level of detail and research Codemasters put into this game. It feels like they've made very deliberate choices about, you know, how twisty a stage is, or what elevation changes, or how tight the road is, based on the country you're racing in. So you could, say in theory you did take a stage layout from New Zealand but whacked an Australia skin on it, or maybe the country next door isn't the best example, like whack a Sweden skin over the top of it. It wouldn't feel quite right, because they have designed everything. They've designed the stage layout and the environment to fit and to work. And you know that should be a given. Of course it should be a given. But you know it's not always. There will be some rally games made where it is just, oh, let's have a twisty bit of road, make it look like a certain country, job done. But it definitely feels like, you know, they've designed the stages with a really impressive level of detail, and it makes them engaging and fun and interesting and varied. So throughout doing a whole season, I never got bored because of how well the stages are designed. Now, another key difference in each environment is also the surfaces, which leads us on to handling. So in terms of the different surfaces, in terms of gravel and mud and snow and tarmac, it all feels like it has an internal logic. It makes sense. And I think in games like this, where, oh my god, I thought it was over for me for a second, and Christ, that was close. We move, it's fine. But yeah, in a game like this, it's not about simulation handling, it's just making sure the game has an internal logic. Does it feel like you're driving on mud and gravel? And when you move between surfaces, say you move from gravel to tarmac, does it feel like you'd imagine it would? And it does. Again, it's one of those things where it's so well designed you don't really think about it that much. It's like, yep, I understand how the car is supposed to behave on this surface, and you drive accordingly. So they've absolutely nailed that as well. In terms of the handling between cars, also, very good job. I actually, and I'll explain why later, started this season in the Toyota Corolla. I think it's the Corolla in this game. And then for one reason or another, which I will go into, I switched to the Ford Escort. And you can feel a subtle difference in the handling between those cars as well. And there's also lower spec independent rally cars in it as well, so obviously there's the difference between the two classes of rally car. They've just nailed it. It is, you can tell it's a game designed by people who care about it, who love rallying, and they've put their knowledge and passion into it. And that is one of the things you could say about Codemasters rally games for many, many years. That's what they've always brought to the table, and it was very clear in this title. So, happy to report, it's not all nostalgia. The game still holds up, and we hold up incredibly well. 9 seconds clear of Liati. What a turnaround. McRae down in 6th behind Carlos Sainz, and our teammate Kankanen in 4th. So this could be a good rally for Ford. And now we are 13 seconds clear at the front. Now, whilst I do think this game holds up, and it is still indeed a bona fide classic, I do have a couple of minor criticisms still. The first one I've already touched upon, and that is the damage model, and that's twofold. One is in stage. It's very much an aesthetic damage model only. Take this moment from the Rally of Corsica, where I had an incident. That probably should have been rally over for me. Let's ignore the physics, actually, and how that happened. Don't worry about it. That should have very much been rally over for me. But it's clear it's only an aesthetic damage model. The handling of the car doesn't feel like it changes very much. And then the other criticism of the damage model is, as already touched upon, I feel like the damage you pick up in a stage doesn't always correlate with then how much you need to repair in those checkups within the rally. So, minor criticism, but it's something that I know they do improve as the games carry on. The other minor criticism, if you weren't really listening to me and maybe focusing on what was going on the screen more, you may have already noticed, and it's the time gains and losses within the splits of a stage. You see, there are some moments where I will have a split. Take that for example, where I will have a horrible moment and yet I'm apparently only 1 second down on the leader after clearly smashing another window of my car and coming to almost a dead stop into a tree. And there's been a few moments like that we may have noticed, even in that last stage where I was incredibly far ahead by like 10 seconds. I don't think the performance was that good. And there have been moments where I think, oh, that was a good split, and I've not really gained as much, or if anything. And then I've had some bad splits, yet I'm quick. And I don't know if that's just maybe me kind of having false expectations of how well I've done. But I generally think I kind of know when I'm being quick and slow, and sometimes it does feel like it's slightly inconsistent with, you know, when I'm gaining and losing. Sometimes it feels like the game is being slightly harsh on me, sometimes, and more often than not, I feel like the game's gone quite easy on me. Now this is the intermediate level, so maybe expert will feel a little bit more ruthless, and as you'd expect. So, you know, if I do make a mistake like that, I will be properly punished with the appropriate time losses. So maybe that's a consideration, the difficulty level. But yeah, sometimes I feel like the game does either go easy on me or doesn't quite correlate with maybe how well I've done in a split versus the time I've lost and gained. But I appreciate that could be very much down to my own expectations of how quick I thought I should have been and, you know, like I say, the difficulty level. But those two minor criticisms aside, and they are still minor in the grand scheme of things, oh, here we go, 3 seconds up, I've just got stuck down a ditch. Let's see how big the split is. Let's test this theory out. Like I say, I recorded this last year. I have no idea what's about to happen. Let's see. But yeah, they are minor criticisms. It's still a fabulous game. It's only because as I was playing through it, I was kind of actively thinking, like, oh, what's good about this game? What's bad? Okay, that's fair enough. I did deserve to lose though at that time. Just completely, the game has completely proved me wrong with that example. And again, I speed off into the woods. Am I about to lose even more time over this next split? Here we go, we're coming to the end now. Oh, this is an awful split. Yeah, this should definitely be sending me further down the order. Yeah, apparently I'm... See? Okay. I feel a bit vindicated there. I don't feel like I should have gained time on the leader throughout that split, considering how that went. But yeah, maybe it's because I'm on the intermediate difficulty with this one. Jesus. If I finish this stage third, I will have absolutely got away with one. The second half of this stage has been abysmal. Okay, let's keep an eye on it as we head to the end. Finish just ahead. Okay. Definitely lose a bit more time, deservedly. Carlos Sainz wins the stage from McRae, and Backlund were fourth. Still ahead of Liatti though, who was our main competition. So we should still be leading the rally. We are. Incredible. But McRae down in fourth. So still in pole position for taking the title. And as you can see, the car's taken quite a few knocks, but it's only 4 minutes worth of repair. Maybe that is down to the difficulty. Maybe when I go up to do the Expert Championship, the damage will be more representative. It'll be a lot more harsh when I crash into things. And I'll have to think about what I can repair. Similar with my split gains and losses, it'll be much more representative. Anyway, dry tyres are back on, but this next stage is 50% mud, 50% dusty tarmac. It's morning. I believe there are just 2 stages to go, which I need to hang on to potentially win the Rally Indonesia and the championship. Now, I mentioned before that I started the championship in a Toyota and ended up doing it in a Ford, and the reason for that was I'm playing this game using an emulator. I do have a copy. I have the copy of Colin McRae Rally. I've got the disc, but because my hardware, as I've mentioned in the videos, is starting to have some wear and tear issues, I'm trying to preserve it as best I can. So I got a copy of the game to run an emulator instead. But unfortunately, the first copy I picked up was the North American version. Now, this typically probably wouldn't make a difference, but there is a subtle difference between the North American version of the game. The main one being there are no other real-life rally driver names other than Colin McRae in the North American version of Colin McRae. Ooh, that wasn't good. That wasn't good. Why did I reverse? Oh, wow. So didn't break, threw it off the wall into a tree. In real life would be wrapped round the tree, and then reversed. God, I'm starting to throw it through this section. I clearly tell that I would have lost a bit of time with that. Let's test out the split loss and gain theory. Well, that seems pretty. Yeah, that seems pretty fair. Down in 7th, 4 seconds away. Okay, some recovery to do in this stage. But yeah, in the North American version of Colin McRae Rally, only Colin McRae is there. And I didn't realise there was a difference. And then I kind of started playing through the game and I was like, I'm sure like Carlos Sainz and Richard Burns are in the game. Who are all these people? And then I looked it up and was like, oh, I've picked up the wrong version. That's why. And not that it makes any difference, because on the surface it is still very much the same. Oh god, I'm pushing it so hard trying to recover. I'd done most of the work. I was back up to 2nd. Okay, here we go, through the tarmac section. Still 2nd. Okay, not bad. Liatti, though, is the main guy who could take the win of the rally off us at this moment. But yeah, long story short, I became a little bit of a stickler for having the real names, so I restarted the championship with the European version, which has all the proper names in. But then I noticed something a bit odd. I noticed that at the start of every rally it had the year 2000 on it, and I was sure that the game came out way before the year 2000. Why did it say 2000 on it? And it's because they later re-released the game as part of the Value series, and rather than just running more copies of the same game, there were actually subtle differences to it. So the original game was the 1998 season, and it had 8 rallies in it. The Value series re-release had 8 rallies in it, but was the 2000 season. And they ended up having to change one of the rallies. I believe it was for licensing issues. And it was arguably one of the most famous rallies, the Monte Carlo Rally. More on that story in a second. Botched the end of that one. So 4th, but still leading the rally by less than 10 seconds though. The gap down to Liatti. So let's just hold it together for the final stage. Stage 6 to finish it off. So yeah, they ended up having to change the Monte Carlo Rally. And what they did was they just simply rebranded it the Austrian Rally in this version of the game. It was a bit of a half-arsed rebranding in the sense that they didn't change any of the stages to make it more like Austria. They just kind of thought, oh, Monte Carlo, Austria, close enough. Which kind of undermines the level of detail I was talking about before, but this is more of a licensing re-release issue change, a publishing issue rather than maybe design. Oh my god, I've just killed someone else's house and smashed another window. I really hope they weren't home. Okay, good start. Stay off the sticky sand. Come on, can win this rally. So yeah, it was a bit of a half-arsed change. Like I say, mainly due to licensing issues. But oh good lord, I want to return to the sea apparently. Liatti's still behind us. Okay, we're okay. Still win this. But yeah, they didn't change any of the stages, which, to be fair, you do kind of get away with for the most part. However, it must be said, the celebrations at the end of the rally are very much supposed to be at the docks at Monte Carlo, so that kind of gives it away, because you're kind of there and it's like, yeah, this is clearly supposed to be Monte Carlo, because you've tried to make it look like the harbour where you've parked the cars at the end of the rally. So it does kind of give it away a bit. Also, they didn't bother changing the flags. You may remember the standings at the start, all the flags of the rallies. They didn't change it to the Austrian flag. The Monte Carlo flag and the Austrian flag have the same colours. It's not the same layout, but it's the same colours, so they just thought, oh, we won't change that. So, yeah, there was a difference. So I'm playing the Value Series version of the game, and I'm not winning the 1998 season. I'm technically winning the 2000 season, and not the Monte Carlo Rally, but the Austrian Rally. Well, how am I 11th? What have I done wrong? Oh my god. I have just remembered how this ends. I'm literally slower than some of the independents. Wow, I've absolutely butchered this final stage. Oh god. So, charge towards the line. I mean, I would be 11 seconds down. We finished behind a Seat. That's a terrible final stage. Liatti's third. Backlund wins the stage ahead of McRae. So where does that mean we lost the rally? It did. We lose it by a second. But McRae is fourth, which means, despite that absolute world-class bottle job, we do still win the 2000 World Rally Championship with one to spare. 12 points clear of McRae with 10 to go. So I've completed an intermediate championship. Maybe not quite in the way. Oh, and see, look, there it is. Austrian Rally third. But definitely not an Austrian flag. But there we go, that was Rally Indonesia. I hope you enjoyed this little look back at Colin McRae Rally, and me waffling facts about it, and its various release iterations. As you can see, rallying is not my forte, so the Expert Championship on this game is probably going to be a little bit more of a challenge. Oh yeah, that was another change. I'm pretty sure in the original version of the game they had the actual livery on the Subaru, but it had to be removed for the Value Series. And on that sad bombshell, it's time to go. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me for another video very soon.